I've just pressed record, so we're on air, and thanks for making time to be part of this. I haven't made any of the lectures available. I just wanted everyone to be on board before we started everything.
No, thank you for sorting it out for us, because I understand that you had one plan, but unfortunately some of us couldn't jump on. So
here we go. No problem at all. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. So can you all see the the slideshow there with the W in the middle of the white screen?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Okay. So if you lose the slides and it comes back just to seeing my face, please let me know. We'll speak about the following 6 things, generally aims of the course. I just want to reaffirm some of the learning outcomes, the design of the course and of this semester, content, resources, what we expect, and supervision, especially indicating to how I hope to correspond with your supervisors. I thought it'd be nice just to start by reminding you of what we want to achieve ultimately in terms of the course. It's not very often that we go through the learning outcomes, but at this stage, when you're close to finishing, I think it's important because I think you'll now be starting to appreciate that you've got a number of skills, and looking at the learning outcomes is going to help you perhaps to appreciate them a little more and hopefully grow in some confidence. So we want everyone to have an in-depth knowledge of normal and abnormal cardiac anatomy and physiology. By this stage, you should have a really good grasp of normal anatomy. We'll go into some more cardiac diseases this semester as well with the 2 units we're doing. Utilize advanced knowledge and operation of ultrasound machines and ultrasound physics. So even though physics is no longer part of the units, it's important still to be mindful of those, physical or physics. How do you say the physics that underpins what we do, and things like artifacts and that kind of thing. I encourage you to be sort of conscious of those and try and remind yourself of what kind of artifacts they are. Artifacts are sometimes really helpful, and by identifying them, you can oftentimes rule out something that might be of concern, perhaps to a cardiologist or something like that. Identify common forms of acquired and congenital disease. We'll be focusing on acquired disease again in this coming semester, especially ischemic heart disease. Acquire, measure, interpret high-quality echocardiogram images. This is a real focus here, and as I was saying just before we started recording, it's going to be a real focus when you guys come on campus, on really making sure that the imaging sequence, that you're very familiar with it, that you're not only familiar with, of how the sequence, is structured, but within that, then that you're really trying to, optimize each and every image that you acquire within that sequence. Communicate findings, both verbal and written form. So at the end of the year, when you do the practical exam, there will be part of that, and I'll go into that further, but part of that's going to be, a verbal report on what the measurements and images that you acquired indicate about that particular patient. Examine and demonstrate well and develop features of safe, caring, and ethical professional practice. That's another important part of the practical exam is dealing in a professional manner with the patient who'll be in your care for that hour-long exam. And then execute continual professional development in lifelong learning through research, reflection, and collaboration with other health professionals. again, there'll be some research. There'll be a research report in the Principles of Cardiac Sonography unit, and we'll go into that. So to kind of paraphrase that and put it in images, because we're sonographers, we like images, and so sometimes those words kind of get in the way. What it really means is that you guys are really familiar with each of the imaging modes, and you're very confident in using each of them from the 4 standard windows, 2D, color, and the other forms of Doppler as well, PW, CW, tissue Doppler. That you're very mindful that when you're, a sonographer is, not an isolated person, but very much part of a team. When you're acquiring images, you're there to do the very best for the patient, and interacting with the patient in a professional manner is really important. Sometimes that might mean that you need to ask the patient to just be quiet for a little while, and obviously you do that in a polite manner, especially if they're talking a lot and it's making it difficult either to concentrate or to image. At other times, you really need to be mindful that you need to be moving the patient around, asking them to move forward or back, or breathe in or breathe out. It's going to be a really important part of the practical exam, because we're going to be expecting you to acquire really good images, and can almost guarantee that not every patient's going to have nice images from every window. And of course, collaborating with others, whether it's reporting directly with a cardiologist or with someone else. So in terms of the design this semester, no surprises. There'll be principles and there'll be practice. In the Principles of Cardiac Sonography 4, we're looking at more diseases, especially ischemic heart disease, but also at endocarditis, prosthetic valves, and diseases of the aorta. There'll be there's a typo there at the bottom there. There'll be a research report and a case report. I apologise for the typo, but it's correct in the learning guide, and we'll go to that in a moment. The practice of cardiac sonography 4 really is the practical elements related to what we're doing in the principles. We'll be introducing stress echo, evaluating valvular anatomy and function, focusing a little on conveying verbal reports, and there'll be a lecture about keeping executing a plan for professional development also. As always, Blacktown's the place to come when you come on the 19th for the on-campus session, then of course for the practical exam. That image is a bit old now, as Andrew will tell you. Things look a whole lot different nowadays.
Yeah. There's a lot of construction happening at the moment.
That's right. So it's a pretty big couple of buildings right next door. Anyway, so there's the views page, as you'll probably have seen already. There's a new image on there. That's courtesy of one of the people out west, and that's just an image I thought that wasn't necessarily the most interesting, but I thought suited the homepage best. I'm going to stop sharing with you guys for a moment and just come back here. Apologies. Let me just let me share with you again. Can you see the view site there on the screen?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So just to remind you guys of the homepage, and I'll let you look around elsewhere, but we've got unit learning outcomes for both units, learning guides, the two new learning guides, the learning guide for Principles 4 and Practice 4 is available. An assessment summary there is on the homepage too. We'll go into assessments in more detail. The staff will be essentially the same people that you were working with last last semester. So that's just a bit of a reminder of what the view site looks like. If I go back here, can you see the content page with the table now?
No.
No. Okay. Stop share. Come back here again. Sorry. How about now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So principles of cardiac 4. This is, in short, this is not a very easy slide to look at, but if you go to the learning guide towards the back, there's a timetable which lists what to expect when for principles of cardiac sonography 4. As you'll see, the lectures occur early in the semester, on-campus seminar in week 5, quiz in week 7. There'll be another Zoom tutorial in week 10, and that's really about, we're going to be talking there about the research report and the case study, just making sure that you guys are very mindful of what we'll be focusing on there. That the idea is really to improve things from last semester. A number of the case studies were particularly good, but I'm hoping to improve things even further for everyone. So that's what Principles of Cardiac Sonography 4 looks like. Again, go to the learning guide to see it a little bit more clearly. Practice of Cardiac Sonography 4, again, lectures happen early. The first lecture will be Principles of Cardiac Sonography 4 lecture, and that will be available from tomorrow. The first Practice of Cardiac Sonography 4 lecture will be next week. As you can see, there's a professional task that will be due that you'll need to bring with you when you come on campus on the 19th of August. So I'll go into that in more detail in a moment, but just be very much aware of that. It's only 4 weeks away, so it's going to require your attention pretty soon. There's another professional task in week 8. There'll be a Zoom meeting focused on preparing for the practical exam in week 12. The practical exam will happen in week 16 as always. I have requested the dates, but the university won't get back to us until sometime in September, so I can't confirm them yet. I'll confirm them as soon as I can. There's a few more details in terms of the dates that the dates that the assessments are due, the assessment items for both principles and practice of cardiac sonography. What I want to do is, I won't focus too much on principles of cardiac sonography. I mean, in essence, it's going to be very similar to last time. There's a quiz, and you all know what the quiz involves. It's online, 20 questions, time limited. The report is a research report, and if you look at the learning guide, you'll be able to read up on that. We'll go into that in more detail when you come on campus. In short, what I'm going to be wanting you to do there is look at another imaging or an advanced imaging modality. And what I mean by that is either strain imaging or 3D imaging or contrast, and write a research report about that particular advanced imaging technology.
We don't have to bring it back to a case that we've done or anything like that, though, Paul?
No. Good question,
right, cool.
Andrew. No. So, no, it's just a sort of a straight research report, but there is a case study, okay? That's the other one. And the case study, yes, will be a study that you've done, but it's a case study kind of with a twist. The underlying theme is ischemic heart disease. But what I want you to do with the case study is present a case whereby the patient their management has involved more than one imaging modality. So there's been echo images acquired, but there's also been something else. So CT or angio or something like that during the course of their management that's helped, the patient or helped the cardiologist and the rest of the people involved in the patient's management. So it'd be important that you get details of that other imaging modality and you present that, in the case study format.
Mm.
So that's principles of cardiac sonography too. Practice. There are two professional tasks. In essence, they're the same kind of. They're essentially the same kind of assessment item. You're submitting to me on both occasions images that you've acquired from a patient, but the content needs to be slightly different. The first one, I want you to submit a study whereby ventricular function was the main focus. So, as with all exams, you've got to focus on other things too, but really ventricular function was the most important thing there. So, for example, if someone, had an MI 4 weeks ago, they were stented and they've come in for the first time to have a look at their LV, that would be an example of the kind of case that you would.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, is that for the professional task?
Yes, this is for the professional task. So, sorry, okay. If I'm going too fast, I'm talking now about practice of cardiac sonography 4. Okay. So that's the first professional task. The second professional task is the same thing. You submit images to me. I'll tell you about their submission in a moment. But the images in the second professional task are going to be focused on valvular function. So, someone who has, whatever the case may be, there's a whole host, obviously, of valvular dysfunction. So if it's someone with known mitral valve prolapse, for example, and they're coming in for their, routine study, that's the kind of one that you might want to present. Or, someone's got a bicuspid aortic valve, or someone has known Ebstein's anomaly, something like that. Okay. So
could we for that professional task, the valves one, could we say, could we do one that has an echo and TOE images added to it, assessing something like endocarditis or something?
No. What I want is transthoracic. Okay.
No worries.
So this is just your work. This is really the focus is really just submitting images that you acquired. Okay. And what I suggest that you guys do, I strongly suggest, is that you don't go back retrospectively and find a good case. Plan now and start thinking over the next couple of weeks, trying to identify a patient that you sense could fit the criteria well, and you make arrangements so that you can image that patient, that you store all the images, etc., etc. So I think it's best if you just put a little bit of planning into it, so that it's one well thought through, and then you'll give yourself every chance of acquiring really good images. Okay. What I will be expecting you guys to do is follow, roughly speaking, the imaging sequence. Now, with the imaging sequence in mind, I know that sometimes that things are a little bit different, and that's absolutely fine. The imaging sequence doesn't have to be followed to the letter, but all the images within the sequence need to be there, if that makes sense. So if you at your practice do things slightly differently, that's fine, but make sure that all the essential images are there, and that they follow a logical kind of order.
Okay.
With regards to the professional task, it's important that when you do come round to saving the images, you'll be able to see this in the learning guide, but two things are important. One, that the images are saved in what's called DICOM format. And that's just the standard international way of storing images, but save them in DICOM format and then transfer them to a USB to bring with you, because I'll be using a DICOM reader to view all these images. So it doesn't matter what machine that you acquired them on, I'll be able to see the images. The only other file I want you to submit on that USB is the report for that particular patient. Okay.
Okay.
So I hope that's reasonably clear. The practical exam at the end of the year, excuse me, we'll speak in more detail about that. The one important thing I want to say about the practical exam is that its weight is 50%, but to pass the exam, it's a 65% pass mark. So you've got to get 65% or more in the exam. And I hope that makes sense as well. So a mark of...
Oh, we don't have a principal exam. I just noticed. Okay. Sorry.
Cheering. A mark of 32.5 out of 50 is needed in the practical exam to pass.
We don't have a written exam for prac as well?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. All right. So everything's just the practical and assessments then?
Yes. The focus is really getting the practical skills up to speed.
Paul, in terms of the logbook, could we just continue from where we finished, or do we have to start? Yeah.
No.
Awesome. Cool.
Continue from where you finished off. No problem at all.
All right.
Okay. With regards to the principles of cardiac sonography, the two assessment items that are due late this semester in week 11 and week 13, there's an abbreviated marking criteria in the learning guide. From not next week, but the week after, I'll make available the full the full marking criteria. The reason they're not in the learning guide is they're long. One's 2 pages long and one's 3 pages long, and it was just going to make a really huge table in the learning guide. So I thought I'd just leave it out. It will be available to you, as I said, very soon.
Are you going to put it under the assessment task tab?
So yeah, I'll make it fairly clear. I'll announce, when I put it there, and it'll be somewhere in assessments. And yeah, it'll be.
Yeah, just because I think a lot of students last semester emailed you about not being able to find certain documents on the Views website, even though you've already told them. So I just thought I'd clear it up. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you. I'll try and make that clear, and I'll try and keep the announcements there a little bit longer as well, so that everyone's clear about that. So,
thanks, Paul.
A couple of things I want to highlight is on the Views site, there's as part of the communication zone, there's a course guidelines section, and within that there's quite a lot of content that I encourage you guys to make good use of. The first one, as you can see there, is the imaging sequence. Now, I'm sure you are all quite familiar with it, but the imaging sequence, if you haven't downloaded, I strongly encourage you to download it, print it if you like. Like me, and you like printed things, and get used to using that to guide your imaging sequence. Now, again, it doesn't have to be followed to the letter, but in short, the images within that you're going to be expected to be able to acquire, especially when it comes around to the practical exam at the end. It doesn't have to be followed exactly, but the images that are within that need to be somewhere within the exam that you do.
Okay.
Another one there, course imaging guidelines. This is one that might be a little bit old for you guys, but things like anatomical terms, reference values, reporting protocol, and things like that are available. The guidelines, there's about 10 different guidelines there available to you that you can use, that you can download and print off, whether your department has them or not. There's a couple there that will come in really handy this semester. The stress echo guidelines, the valvular stenosis and valvular regurgitation guidelines. I strongly encourage you guys to be familiar with these. Now, not every single part of the documents are going to be entirely relevant. So, you can read them with a little bit of discretion, but I encourage you to be familiar with them and use them for your reference. You guys have always worked really well together. It's great that you guys have got a WhatsApp group and that you guys are in constant contact with each other. And I encourage you to keep that up, because that's a really great way to sort of build up not only the morale within the group, but also to communicate ideas and to help everyone hopefully to go really successfully this semester. Thank you to everyone who filled in feedback on unit and feedback on teaching forms. Do try and improve things each year, and we'll continue to do so. And those forms will be available again, excuse me, midway through this semester too. The people that you'll meet are the same people. Kenny, Kristen, Fernando at the on-campus tutorial will be around, and myself too. Lily Collison, who's the librarian, you'll remember her. She gave the tutorial when you guys were on campus last semester. She's a very knowledgeable and a really good person to contact if you, perhaps when you're looking at the research report or your case study and you're wanting just to know something. She's a really a good person to contact, and I encourage you to contact her if you're looking for something and can't find it immediately. I will email everyone's supervisor within the next couple of weeks to indicate to them the focus of this semester, encouraging them to really try and spend good time with you, both as you prepare the assessment items and also obviously work up towards the practical exam. I'll email them again at the end of the semester, really to try and encourage them to give you, sort of the most help they can in the final weeks leading up to that practical exam. And then what I suggest is you just lean on them a little bit and try and arrange some regular meetings. I mean, I think the best way to work with a supervisor is not to leave everything for the last minute, but have something regular. Try and suggest, look, can we catch up, I don't know, for 10 minutes once a week, or whatever the case may be, depending on your particular situation. Hopefully that way you'll be able to really keep the ball rolling and go really well. Now I'm going to stop sharing and come back here. And has anyone got any questions?
Sorry, with the face-to-face thing, Paul.
Yep.
I couldn't recall. You said you'll just release the times and all that online, right? You'll let us know about the times and the format of it all.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So in the next couple of days, I'll indicate to you which group you're in. So you guys will be divided into two groups, a morning group and an afternoon group. There will be crossover in the middle. But people essentially, Andrew, you're going to be in the afternoon group. I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Traveling from a long way, they'll get priority. I think, Nina, you might be in the morning group. I was looking at that this morning. Anyway, just wait. Hopefully tomorrow. If not, I'll have it up on the website on Thursday, and you'll be able to see that.
And in terms of the final exam, sorry, Nina, sorting out your sorting out what machine we're going to use. Is that something that we'll just figure out closer to the final exam?
Yep. So you'll be given a choice, and I'll indicate I'll tell you a little bit more when you come on campus, but
Okay.
indicate what what machine you'd like to use, and we'll have, sort of 4 machines to choose from. Now, I can't guarantee that you will get the machine, but once everyone's sort of submitted their choices and we've worked out who needs to be here early and late and all that kind of thing, we'll try our very best to make sure that you have a machine that you're at least a little bit familiar with.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyone else?
Actually, for me, it was just submitting the assignments. Did you say it had to be a USB, or can it be on a CD or anything?
No, please. Good question. Thank you. Please use a USB. I don't have a CD-ROM on my computer that's got the DICOM reader, so it needs to be a USB. Thank you for asking. Please, a USB memory stick is what I'm after.
Paul's too technologically advanced to use a CD these days, guys.
That's right. It's old school. No. Yeah, I can't. I can't read CDs on the computer.
So Shania was just asking for the professional tasks. Are the images that we're sending you of the entire study?
Please.
And the report. I'll just add to it because she'd added a second question. And the report, is it our report or is it once the doctors finalize it?
So, yeah. That's another good question. Look, this is always difficult because oftentimes you have to go with what the doctor says, and it's up to you to work out what you think best reflects the images and measurements. Now, most often that will be the doctor's report. However, sometimes the doctors might abbreviate things, the indication, for example, or something else. So you'll have to use a little bit of discretion with regards to making sure that the indication is clear, that making sure that the summary is really clear as well. So I would suggest that you look at the report that you gave, the report that the doctor gave, and then work out what you think, given the images and measurements, is most reflective of the images that you submit. Now, I hope that's clear. But, some doctors, I'll use an extreme example, they might want to just abbreviate anything and they might want a 2-sentence summary. So that's not the kind of thing I'm after. I want a more comprehensive report than that. So if that was the case, you'd have to do a bit of work, but you probably won't have to.
And with the images, you said you wanted them de-identified. Is that the file name as well, or just the images?
So, no, if the file name is saved, excuse me, try and save the file name without the patient's name. It's really the images I want you to focus on. I want you to de-identify the images. The file name shouldn't be a problem for you to change that around. Let me think.
Paul, in terms of the images, I think if the students, so for us, what we can do, because I've done it with both Philips and GE, if you can duplicate the study, what you can do is duplicate the study, move the study into the duplication, and then just delete the patient's name. It should wipe it out for all the DICOM images. From memory of what I did, because I did it for the research task for Dr. Tan, and I had to de-identify all of them, and I'm pretty sure that's how I did it. What I'll do is I'll try it out again this week, and then I'll let you know how it goes.
Thank you. So with the GE machine, there's a I can't remember the name. There's a setting that you indicate, and any images that you transfer are de-identified. That might only be on the more advanced GE machines. If you're unsure about it, I encourage you to start thinking about it now. So if you're unsure, ask the senior sonographer in your unit if they know how to de-identify images. Now, if at the end of the day you send me something and the image and there are patient details on it, I'm not going to fail you for it. But this is something that we just need to get used to for when you're doing presentations and all that kind of thing. So please, I request that you do make an effort to de-identify it. It's good practice too. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you need to do in order to just respect the patient's privacy. I'm not going to be going and talking to anyone about their study, but yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
One last one, sorry.
Yeah. No,
I think some of the interstate people were wondering, would it be possible to come in the afternoon, or are we definitely coming in the morning if we're interstate?
Well, so if you'd prefer to come in the afternoon, just shoot me an email. That's no problem at all. I'm very happy to change things around. The only reason I've made it sort of in the morning previously is so that you can get on a flight away. But if you'd prefer to come in the afternoon, yep, no, that's no problem at all. Please just send me an email to remind me, and I'll change groups around accordingly. No problem.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure whether I explained the final practical exam in length. I certainly will several times this semester, and when you guys come on campus, I will. But the exam is an hour-long exam. The first 5 minutes of the exam essentially is just you're introduced to the patient, you're told the patient's history, you position the patient, make sure they're ready for imaging. Image acquisition time is 45 minutes, in which you're to try and acquire images according to the imaging sequence. Now, the patient will have a pathology, so you'll be told that at the beginning, and obviously you'll want to adjust your imaging sequence a little bit accordingly. So not every imaging sequence is obviously going to be exactly the same. You'll want to focus, obviously, on that particular pathology. So if you just go through the sequence without really paying any attention to something that's really clear, excuse me, obviously you'll be marked according to that. Once that 45 minutes is finished, the patient will leave, and you've got 5 minutes then to review all the measurements and images that you've made. And then the last 5 minutes will be just question and answer there'll be specific questions, about the images you've made, and it's kind of a verbal kind of report. And that's the hour-long practical exam at the end.
Okay. Paul, can we, in terms of that 45 minutes,
yep.
Is there no penalty for maybe taking excessive amount of images? Say someone's got aortic stenosis and you've measured it multiple times just to make sure that you're getting the right wave and lining it up properly. Obviously, for us who's not as skilled as sonographers like you, for example, we might make more than one measurement and say, we've finished the study and we've taken about 20 aortic valve measurements. Is that still something that's obviously it's necessary, because the more measurements, the more accurate you are, but
exactly. So I mean, all of the people who'll be marking the exams are very mindful that you need to try and achieve the highest grade if, for example, you're looking at aortic stenosis.
Exactly, yeah.
Or if you're looking at mitral regurgitation and it's in eccentric jet, for example, you mightn't see it well in the 4-chamber view. You've got to look in the 2-chamber view. You've got to look in, the long axis view. So, no, you won't be marked down for doing that kind of thing. As a matter of fact, we're expecting you to make multiple measurements, especially if there's a pathology.
Okay.
So in which case, all you need to do is say, look, I'm going to repeat this measurement again. And you don't even necessarily say that. I'm just trying to see if I can get a high gradient. Or, if there's TR there and you feel as though the envelope isn't particularly good in one window, obviously don't spend 15 minutes trying to get it from that window. You will be expected to keep moving on and acquire it from another imaging window, because regurgitant jets are directional, and you don't always acquire the highest gradient from gradients aren't all the same from all windows. So I hope that answers your question, Andrew.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Out of curiosity, are we all going to be scanning the same pathology, or?
Yeah, we try to. And again, it's hard. So we've got to have some kind of standardization, but you won't all be scanning the same patient, obviously. It'd take forever.
Patient will have broken ribs by the end of it.
That's right. So yeah, we try and sort of standardize it to some degree. Before any of the exams are done, each of the patients that will be, each of the examiners that will be examining you will have done a full study on that patient, so they know which windows are a little bit more difficult, and then you've also got kind of a standard measure to mark against. So yeah. Okay. Before my voice packs it in, I might call it a day. If you've got any questions, please send me an email or just ask for some clarification. If you want to chat over the phone, no problem. I will make this recording available from tomorrow. You probably won't want to watch it, but if there's anything that you weren't quite sure of, you can either watch the recording, ask me. Lectures will start tomorrow. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you guys in mid-August. As I said, the groups will be up on the View site in the next day or two.
Okay.
Okay, see you later, everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
All right,
Okay,
thanks,
cheers.
Paul.
Bye.
Thanks.